is Congressman Steve King. He is from Iowa, fifth, demanding an up or down vote on energy independence. How are you?
Well, I'm doing fine, Sean. I didn't run out of things to say on the floor. I just came from there so I could join you today, and thanks for having me on.
Well, thanks so much for being with us. By the way, I understand that you are literally escorting any visitor that goes to Washington to the House floor to be sort of the audience because the C-SPAN cameras have been shut down and Nancy Pelosi won't turn them on again.
Well, that is the historic component of this, Sean. As near as any of us can find out, there's never been a time that members have staged a revolt like this on the floor of the House of Representatives. And we just started going out, and under the rules, we can escort people down onto the floor when we're not in formal session. So we're just catching tour groups, inviting people in, escorting them down. They're sitting in this chair that Nancy Pelosi used to sit in, not the Speaker's chair, but they're sitting in the seat where Hillary Clinton sits during the State of the Union address, or Charlie Rangel, or Teddy Kennedy, or you name them. And I'm telling them that, and it gets a big smile on their face.
I bet it does. Well, I think that's pretty terrific that you're providing them that opportunity. Congressman, first of all, tell us where we are with this and what the status is.
Well, the status is that Nancy Pelosi has blocked any vote that expands access to American energy. And by ordering that abrupt adjournment that took place on the 1st of August, that was a Friday, and then those of us there were 40 to 50 of us that were scheduled to give speeches on energy. She shut that all off. Supposedly, our revolution continues. Last night, I understand that there's some sign of a crack in her resolute objection to access to American energy by a statement she made that looked like she may allow a vote. I have a hard time imagining serving in the United States Congress in America where gas prices have nearly doubled since she took the gavel and not being able to have a vote on the floor of the House of Representatives. I think we will get this vote eventually. I'm afraid that it becomes a camouflage vote that will be designed to confuse the American people. We need to demand this. A bill must come to the floor of the House of Representatives under an open rule that allows the members to offer amendments so we can perfect legislation and demonstrate the will of the American people. That's what this constitutional republic is about. She has, in a regal draconian fashion, I think, abused the power of the speakership, and by blocking any legislation that comes to the floor that expands access to our energy. And by the way, I couldn't find anybody on the floor a few minutes ago that has a bigger carbon footprint than Nancy Pelosi. I guess Al Gore wasn't there.
Well, I guess not, but she's been traveling around, I'm sure, on a private jet, selling her 2,000 books that she's, a record number in terms of a record low of sales of any book by any prominent political figure that I can think of here. But, all right, so she's ready to at least create the appearance of allowing a vote on offshore drilling. But what we're beginning to understand here is that she is going to hold this vote, but she's going to do it in such a way that she's really just going to create the appearance of an energy vote, and they're going to load it up with so much garbage that it's going to be impossible for even Republicans to support.
Well, Sean, that's what I see coming. I would be surprised if the first effort out here is an honest effort to allow sunlight to come in on the process, to allow amendments so that we can actually have votes that define our position on energy. And, they've been trying to squeeze this into an offshore drilling vote. And then when you look at the Gang of Tens language, which says, well, everything would be off limits offshore except for a few states in the southeast that would have an option. That's no offshore drilling vote. America has a powerful amount of energy. We have more coal than any other country. It's off limits for us to drill offshore. No industrialized nation has done such a thing. We only allow it off Texas, Louisiana, and Alabama. We've got the Atlantic coast, the balance of the Gulf Coast, and especially Florida, the Pacific coast, and also the Alaskan, outer continental shelf there. Massive amounts of oil and natural gas. And in fact, altogether, 420 trillion cubic feet of natural gas in just the Gulf Coast.
I just assume, and we talked about this last week, Kimberly Strassel in the Wall Street Journal pointed this out. I think this is pretty much a gift or a lifeline that's handed to both Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, and Barack Obama as it relates to energy. You've got this gang of 10 in the U.S. Senate, and you got these 5 Republicans going along with this. When you look at the plan that they would have to, quote, break the energy stalemate, it really, when you look at the details of it, it's a Democratic giveaway. A new production on offshore federal lands is going to be left to state legislatures, and then only 4 coastal states. The regulatory hurdles are going to be huge. The bill bars drilling within 50 miles of the coast. That would put off limits some of the most productive areas. That would mean the ANWR is a no-go. And the highlight is instead $84 billion in tax credits, subsidies, federal handouts for alternative fuels and renewables. And they're going to pay for this by raising taxes on oil companies. Now, I'm going to tell you something. For the Republicans to align themselves with this in the Senate and helping them in this election year create the perception of solving the problem is unconscionable to me.
That's all it can be, the perception of solving the problem and handing everything else over to the environmental side of this. And I think it's unconscionable. And by the way, Lindsey Graham is supposed to be trying to get John McCain elected president. This move undercuts John McCain. And we need to be talking to John McCain about expanding his energy horizons, which he's done a significantly good job of. There are a few places left to go. And I'd like to see the Republican position be American energy needs to have access to it by American development companies now, all of it. And I want to also make another point to the American people, and that is that to hand the decision over to states on whether or not to drill on the outer continental shelf, they might have an argument that it's their resources as a state if they had a navy to defend themselves if, say, the Cuban or the Chinese navy sails into the off the coast of Florida. But that's not the case. It's the American people that own that energy, at least from the 3-mile limit on out. And that case has not been made strongly enough because we're trying to thread a needle to get to a place where we can get a compromise. We've got to stand on a principle. That's American energy, and Congress should decide when all of it is opened up, and it all should be opened up now. And the American people need to also get on the phone, call they're mostly Democrat members of Congress, and demand a vote to open up American energy.
Well, I think it's well said. One of the things that I'm concerned about, Congressman, is that the American people are going to be lulled into a false sense of security. Oil prices have been going down fairly significantly. We now see that we have the biggest drop in oil demand, U.S. oil demand, in 26 years. And I think it's going to give people a false sense of security that the problem has been solved and their gas prices go down a bit. And it is not the answer, the long-term answer, especially when we can consider the political instability in the Middle East, Venezuela, the lower production in Mexico. 70% of our oil comes from imports, and it's a $700 billion transfer of wealth. So I think people, once they see their gas prices decline, they're going to believe, oh, maybe the crisis has been averted and nothing could be further from the truth.
Well, and if you look at what happens to this nation, if we let Nancy Pelosi, who's trying to save the planet, shut down access to American energy, and I mean this is all American energy, there's nothing that they'll agree with that I can think of. Wind, solar, and geothermal, but only under certain conditions. Wind, if Teddy Kennedy doesn't see the windmills, you have to set up a drill rig to do geothermal, and that's like drilling a root canal in an environmentalist to see a drill rig go into Mother Earth. Wind and the solar and the solar component, they have to see the panels. But it's all American energy is under assault from environmental extremists. And we can do this in an environmentally friendly fashion. I'd say the American people that you saw how the switchboards got shut down in the United States Senate when they tried to pass a comprehensive amnesty bill. You did it twice. This is the time when the American people need to come to the United States Capitol. We're holding an historic debate on the floor of the Capitol. I will personally escort you, if I'm here, and other members will if they're here, escort you down onto the floor of the House of Representatives. You can sit in the front row if you like. That seems to always have a few vacant seats in it. And you can be part of and experience this. We start with a prayer in the morning, and then we do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we go into the debates. If you fill the Capitol up, if you back the lines up outside of the Capitol, if you do a pilgrimage to Washington, D.C., we will have an energy debate, a real one. We'll have real amendments, and we will open up American energy for the American people. And we often will say, if you don't vote, you don't have a right to complain. If you've heard this message and you haven't called the House switchboard, 202-224-3121, asked to be connected to probably a Democrat member of Congress who has blocked it. If you don't come to Washington, D.C. and fill this up, or call someone else and get them to do that, one of these days you're going to be buying $5 and $6 gas, and I'm going to have to say you missed your chance when we had our chance here in August of 2008. It
may even be $12 if we believe Barack Obama's even right on that. All right. Well, Congressman, we appreciate all you're doing. There's an open invitation. Anybody wants to go to the Capitol, Congressman King or any other Republican will escort you to the floor of the House of Representatives. You can sit and watch the historic debate, even though there's a blackout in the media and Nancy Pelosi won't allow the C-SPAN cameras on.